Have you ever handed over money and felt a little uneasy? A tightness in your chest? A silent fear of, what if it doesn't come back? What if I told you that your words, spoken with faith, can change your entire financial atmosphere? Not tomorrow, now. There are sacred words that align you with divine supply, and when spoken consistently, they magnetize wealth to you. Every time you touch money, you have a chance to activate a spiritual law. Here's what to speak when you handle money, and watch your wealth expand like never before. Words carry vibration and shape material reality. The spoken word is not merely sound, it is power. Every word uttered carries within it a vibration, an invisible energy that moves through the unseen realms and begins its journey toward manifestation. When you speak, you are not just communicating, you are creating. The tongue is not just an instrument of language, but a divine wand, shaping your world with every declaration it makes. All things begin in the invisible. Before there was form, there was thought. Before thought, there was the word. This is not poetic metaphor, it is spiritual law. Just as a seed is planted in soil and produces fruit after its kind, so do the words we speak plant themselves in the soil of consciousness, later appearing in the garden of our experience. Many speak idly, unaware they are scattering seeds with every sentence, some fruitful, some filled with thorns. A word charged with belief becomes magnetic. It pulls to itself the elements needed for its fulfillment. A word spoken with emotion, whether fear or faith, gathers more power and moves faster into form. This is why the one who constantly declares lack will see more lack appear, just as surely as the one who boldly affirms wealth will begin to see prosperity unfold in surprising ways. Life listens to what we say and answers according to its tone. Consider the vibration of the word poverty. Say it aloud and feel its heaviness. Its sound is low, dense, filled with limitation. Now speak the word abundance. There is a lift, a rise, a brightness in its tone. Every word you utter has a corresponding effect in the world around you. This is not imagination. It is vibrational science applied spiritually. The wise one watches their words as a gardener watches over precious plants, never speaking what they do not want to grow. We are always in conversation with the universe, whether we realize it or not. Words are not empty, they are agreements. When you say, "I can't afford that," you are not merely stating a fact, you are forming a covenant with limitation. When you say, "Money flows to me freely," you are opening a gate to greater supply. The universe does not respond to pleading, it responds to declaration. Your voice, firm with faith, issues the command, and the invisible forces begin to obey. Children of spirit must awaken to the power of their words. For too long, many have cursed their finances, their health, their relationships, unknowingly, by repeating statements charged with fear. These repetitions become affirmations, and affirmations, whether positive or negative, become prophecy. To say, "I'm always broke," is not simply a complaint, it is a spell cast, and unless revoked, it must fulfill itself. This is why the spiritually wise speak with intention. They do not murmur about lack. They do not casually say, "That's too expensive," or "I'll never have enough." Their words are chosen carefully, consciously, like precious stones placed in a crown. They understand that even in jest, the word is planting its vibration. They bless their money, they bless their work, they bless their days, because what is blessed increases. Blessing is a high vibration, and it lifts all it touches. When you speak a word consistently, backed by belief, the subconscious begins to accept it as law. And once the subconscious accepts it, it must manifest. It knows no sarcasm. It does not judge. It simply obeys the vibration it receives. And the word, once accepted, moves into physical expression through the channels of time, opportunity, and even seeming coincidence. The student of truth will begin to watch their tongue as one guards a treasure, for every word is a creative decree, and no word returns void. What you speak, you shape. What you declare, you direct. What you affirm, you summon from the unseen into the seen. Whether it be wealth, peace, or perfect health, the beginning of its appearance is always in the vibration of the spoken word. Money is divine substance and a symbol of infinite supply. Money, to the spiritually awakened mind, is not merely paper, metal, or digital numbers. It is divine substance made visible. It is not evil, it is not profane, and it is not separate from the realm of spirit. Money is an outer expression of an inner supply. It is the form through which infinite energy flows into the material world to fulfill purpose, to facilitate exchange, and to express divine circulation. Too often, money is misunderstood. People chase it, fear it, resent it, or feel ashamed of desiring it. These emotional entanglements come from a false belief that money is separate from God, separate from Source, separate from holiness. But this is not so. All substance comes from the same spiritual root. Whether it is food, water, clothing, shelter, gold, or silver, all are expressions of the one invisible, inexhaustible supply that moves through different forms and names. Money is not a lifeless thing. It responds to vibration, intention, and emotion. It carries an energy field. When treated with reverence and understanding, it flows easily. When approached with fear or resentment, it retreats. The spiritually attuned soul knows that money, like all substance, is sacred. It is a tool. It is an instrument. And like any instrument, it performs according to the consciousness of the one using it. To see money rightly is to remove the veil of illusion. The bills in your wallet are not just economic tools, they are symbols. They represent the capacity of divine mind to meet your needs through practical channels. Each dollar is not just currency. It is a unit of trust, an evidence of circulation, a reminder that infinite substance can take any form necessary to support your life. The universe is lavish, abundant, and endlessly creative. It lacks nothing. Its storehouses are not measured by what you see with the eyes, but by what you know with the heart. When you touch money with gratitude, you align yourself with this storehouse. When you treat money as holy substance, you invite its continued presence. The more you see money as divine, not dirty, not evil, not scarce, the more it shows up in your life as friend, not foe. There is no lack in spirit. Lack is a human illusion born of fear, separation, and limitation. But in the infinite, there is only flow, only expansion, only circulation. Money, then, becomes a mirror. It reflects the beliefs you hold about the divine source. If you see God as limited, you will see money as limited. If you see God as abundant, generous, and wise, your finances will begin to mirror that image. Do not make money your master, but do not make it your enemy either. It is a symbol, not a god, but it is a powerful symbol, one that can bring comfort, opportunity, generosity, and joy when used rightly. To deny its value is to deny the ways in which Spirit chooses to bless, to give, to move through form. The spiritual path does not demand poverty, it demands right perception. Money should never be worshipped, but it should be honored. It should be received with thanksgiving, given with joy, and circulated with wisdom. As you shift your consciousness, you begin to see money not as something to acquire with grasping hands, but as something to attract with magnetic thought. You begin to understand that you do not create money. You reveal it by aligning with the laws that govern it. The supply is not outside you. It is not in banks, jobs, or economies. Those are merely channels. The true supply is in the infinite mind that knows no shortage. When you understand that money is simply one expression of this limitless substance, your fears begin to dissolve. You stop begging for money and start communing with Source. You stop hoarding and start trusting. You stop seeing money as a struggle and begin to see it as a sacred companion on your spiritual journey. The spoken word aligns the subconscious with divine law. The moment a word is spoken, it does more than pass through the air. It imprints itself upon the mind, not only the conscious, but more importantly, the subconscious, the silent builder of experience. The spoken word is a tool of alignment, a sacred instrument that harmonizes inner belief with the higher order of spiritual truth. It is through speech that the invisible becomes visible, that the unrealized becomes manifest, that divine law is set in motion through human intention. The subconscious mind is impressionable, fertile, and non-discriminating. It does not reason, it does not argue, it does not reject or analyze. It receives whatever is consistently offered to it, especially through repetition and feeling. What you say again and again with conviction becomes a command, a blueprint pressed into the soft wax of your inner consciousness, and once impressed, it begins to unfold itself in outward events, circumstances, and conditions. Divine law is perfect order. It is the unchanging truth that governs the universe, cause and effect, seed and harvest, vibration and response. This law is always working, regardless of one's awareness. But when the spoken word is used deliberately and faithfully, it brings the subconscious mind into obedience with this higher law. The disorganized thoughts of doubt, fear, or confusion begin to dissolve, replaced by clarity, peace, and creative power. Every word is a decree. When spoken with intention, it becomes a spiritual act. It is not a casual expression, it is a shaping force. To say, "I am prosperous," is not to fantasize or pretend. It is to speak the reality of divine law, which always supplies more than enough. The subconscious, upon hearing this statement consistently, begins to adjust all inner programming to reflect the vibration of prosperity. It sets forces in motion, seen and unseen, to match the spoken word. On the contrary, words of complaint, limitation, and fear also align the subconscious, but with laws of discord and scarcity. To say, "I never have enough," "money always slips through my fingers," or "I can't do this," is to instruct the subconscious to maintain those very conditions. It obeys without resistance. It mirrors back what it is told, without questioning whether the statement is beneficial or harmful. The subconscious is a faithful servant, but the master must be wise. This is why sacred affirmations carry such power. They are not wishful thinking, they are tools of transformation. When you speak the truth of spirit into your daily experience, you begin to correct the old false impressions left by years of fear-based thinking. You no longer let the outer world dictate your inner truth. Instead, you bring your inner world into harmony with divine law, and the outer must follow. Words spoken aloud take on additional force. The vibration of sound, carried through the body and into the atmosphere, reinforces the belief. It makes the abstract more tangible. The act of speaking engages the will. It activates confidence. It declares dominion. Silent thought is powerful, but spoken word is an anchor. It fixes the idea more firmly within the subconscious, and thus speeds the manifestation of its result. To use this power wisely is to use it consistently. A single affirmation, once spoken, begins a process, but like the dripping of water that carves a stone, repetition builds momentum. You must speak truth even when the facts seem to deny it. You must continue to affirm order in the midst of chaos, abundance in the face of bills, peace in the heart of confusion. The spoken word is the bridge between divine law and daily life. When you declare with faith, "Everything I need is already provided," you are not waiting for proof. You are becoming proof. You are aligning your subconscious to accept that what is spiritual is already real, and what is real must soon appear. The old patterns begin to loosen their grip. The subconscious begins to expect good. It begins to attract support. It begins to create a new pattern of reflection that corresponds to the truth you have spoken. Fear of lack attracts lack. Faith in abundance attracts wealth. The law is precise and unyielding. What you feel and believe inwardly, you draw to you outwardly. Fear magnetizes that which is feared. Faith magnetizes that which is hoped for. The law does not judge between the two. It simply responds. When the heart is filled with anxiety over not having enough, it sends out a signal of scarcity, and that signal draws back experiences to confirm the fear. When the heart is filled with trust in infinite supply, it sends out a vibration of sufficiency, and the universe answers with provision. Fear of lack is one of the most widespread mental poisons in the world. It whispers in the quiet moments, "There's not enough." It creates tension when bills arrive. It breeds resentment when others prosper. It causes hoarding, miserliness, hesitation, and chronic dissatisfaction. It is not merely a feeling, it is a magnetic force. It wraps itself around the subconscious and binds the mind to a pattern of insufficiency. It sees every opportunity through a lens of doubt and meets every open door with hesitation. This fear is not based on truth, it is based on illusion. The truth is that supply is infinite. The creator of the universe lacks nothing and withholds nothing. All limitation is human-made, a product of belief, not of spirit. But when a soul believes in lack, speaks of lack, and expects lack, it must experience lack. The subconscious, charged with fear, begins to reject good unconsciously. It will block prosperity, sabotage opportunities, and shrink the flow of income, all while the outer mind remains puzzled as to why struggle continues. Faith in abundance is the antidote. It is not blind optimism. It is not naive wishing. It is a spiritual knowing that the source of all good is unfailing. Faith does not look at appearances. It looks beyond them and sees the substance. When faith is held steadily, even in the presence of temporary lack, the condition begins to shift. The vibration of trust penetrates the subconscious and sends out a new signal to the universe. I am ready. I am open. I expect increase. Wealth begins as a state of consciousness. It is not the number in the bank account, but the energy in the soul. One who believes in abundance, speaks abundance, and gives freely, even from a place of seeming limitation, activates the law of increase. That person becomes a vessel through which wealth can flow. Opportunities begin to appear. Inspired ideas arise. Channels of provision open. People show up, doors swing wide, and the entire environment begins to reflect the inner shift from fear to faith. It is impossible to live richly while thinking poorly. A rich life cannot be built on thoughts of struggle. The mind must be cleansed of every belief that money is hard to come by, that success is for others, or that abundance is rare. These beliefs are not only false, they are creative forces that manufacture the very conditions they describe. To fear that there is not enough is to invite insufficiency. To trust that there is always more than enough is to attract overflow. Faith in abundance is strengthened through affirmation, gratitude, and action. Each time you declare, "I am supplied, supported, and sustained," you are carving a new groove in consciousness. Each time you give, no matter how small the amount, with joy and trust, you defy fear and reinforce your bond with the infinite supply. Each time you take a step forward in confidence, despite outer conditions, you signal to the universe that you are aligned with truth and ready to receive. Fear contracts the channels through which money flows. Faith expands them. Fear closes the hand. Faith opens it. Fear says, "Hold on to what little you have," while faith says, "Give freely, for more is on the way." Fear looks at the world and sees limits. Faith looks at spirit and sees infinite potential. When a soul releases fear and anchors itself in the certainty of divine provision, lack loses its grip and wealth begins to appear in natural and even miraculous ways. Handling money with gratitude multiplies it. Gratitude is a spiritual magnet. It is more than politeness, it is power. It multiplies whatever it touches. When gratitude meets money, the result is expansion. Money, like all forms of divine substance, responds to energy, and the highest energy one can bring to it is thanksgiving. When money is handled with fear, it shrinks. When it is handled with resentment, it stagnates. But when it is handled with gratitude, it flows, grows, and returns multiplied. Many people only express gratitude when they feel they have enough. But spiritual law operates in the unseen, not the seen. Gratitude must precede increase. It must be spoken, felt, and lived before the greater flow arrives. To wait for more before giving thanks is to violate the law of multiplication. The one who gives thanks for the little attracts the much. The one who scorns the little repels increase. Even the smallest coin, when blessed, carries within it the seed of prosperity. To handle money with gratitude is to treat it as sacred, not secular. Each bill, each coin, each transaction becomes a holy exchange when approached with reverence. When you receive money, whether it be a salary, a gift, a refund, or even loose change, pause and say inwardly, "Thank you, Divine Source. I recognize this as evidence of your perfect provision." That simple act charges the money with spiritual energy and aligns your consciousness with the flow of abundance. Likewise, when you spend money, let gratitude lead the way. Instead of cringing at the cost, bless it. Say, "Thank you that I am able to pay for this. Thank you that I live in a world where my needs are met." By doing so, you shift the vibration from fear of loss to joy in circulation. Money is meant to move. It is never meant to be clutched in fear nor pushed away with guilt. It is a river, not a pond. Gratitude keeps that river flowing. People often curse their bills, not realizing they are cursing their own channels of supply. A bill is not a punishment. It is a receipt. It means someone trusted you with credit, service, or goods. Bless the bill. Thank the source that provides for its payment. Declare that every obligation is met with ease and abundance. That attitude transforms the burden into a blessing, and what is blessed expands. Money handled with anxiety carries the imprint of resistance. It becomes heavy, slow, reluctant to return. But money handled with gratitude carries light. It moves freely, joyfully, and returns through unexpected channels. Gratitude opens doors that logic cannot. It makes space for grace. It turns mundane transactions into spiritual practice. It lifts the soul into harmony with the law of divine increase. Even when the sum is small, the power of gratitude is great. Count your coins with joy. Bless the money in your purse or pocket. See it not as just a little, but as the visible tip of an invisible supply that never runs dry. Speak over it with faith. You are blessed. You are multiplied. You are divine substance made visible. These are not empty words. They are spiritual declarations that shape the subconscious and summon greater good. Many chase money with desperation, never realizing that gratitude would do more than striving ever could. Gratitude draws. It calls in more of what is appreciated. When you appreciate what you have, you signal that you are ready for more. When you resent or fear what you have, you create resistance and close the gates of increase. The spiritual law is simple. What you bless, blesses you back. What you thank, thanks you with increase. Let gratitude become your daily practice in all things financial. Let it color how you receive, how you give, how you spend, and how you save. Speak thanks aloud. Feel it deeply. Write it down if you must. The energy of thanksgiving, when consistent, turns even the smallest income into a doorway for unexpected wealth. Affirmations cleanse subconscious, limiting beliefs about wealth. The subconscious mind is the deep reservoir of every belief, experience, and emotional imprint a soul has ever absorbed. It is the soil in which the seeds of thought are planted and from which the harvest of life is drawn. What is buried in the subconscious eventually rises to the surface in form. If those buried beliefs are rooted in lack, fear, or unworthiness, the outward experience will be one of financial struggle, regardless of effort or desire. Most limiting beliefs about wealth are not born from conscious choice. They are absorbed, passed down through generations, shaped by childhood, formed by societal messaging, and strengthened through repeated disappointments. Statements like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," or "Rich people are greedy," may seem innocent, but when accepted by the subconscious, they become internal laws. And the subconscious, once programmed, fulfills those laws with unwavering loyalty. The conscious mind may wish for wealth, declare goals, and take action, but if the subconscious holds opposing beliefs, it will quietly sabotage every step. It will delay, distract, or dismantle progress. It does not do this maliciously. It simply acts out what it has been taught. This is why effort alone is never enough. Transformation must begin in the unseen, where beliefs reside. That is the sacred task of affirmation. Affirmations are more than positive statements. They are spiritual tools of reprogramming. They are declarations of truth spoken in faith, designed to overwrite the falsehoods held in the inner mind. Each time an affirmation is spoken, especially with emotion and repetition, it sends a message deep into the subconscious. That message, though it may at first be resisted, eventually becomes accepted. And once accepted, it becomes reality. A limiting belief may say, "I never have enough." The corresponding affirmation might be, "I am abundantly supplied with everything I need." The first time this new truth is spoken, the subconscious may reject it. It may echo back doubt, protest, or discomfort. But this is not failure. It is the old belief surfacing to be released. The key is persistence. With consistent affirmation, the subconscious begins to soften and the new idea takes root. The spoken word carries vibration, and the subconscious responds to vibration more than logic. This is why affirmations must be felt, not merely recited. When one says, "Wealth flows to me easily and continuously, with feeling, belief, and joy," the affirmation becomes alive. It begins to rewrite the hidden scripts that once ruled from the shadows. The inner dialogue shifts, and with it, the outer life begins to change. Affirmations work best when they are present tense, positive, and aligned with divine truth. They should never be born from desperation, but from certainty. Not, "I hope money will come," but "Money is coming to me now." Not, "I wish I had more," but "I live in an abundant universe and I am open to receive." Each affirmation is a key that unlocks a new corridor within the subconscious. Each phrase is a beam of light dissolving the fog of inherited limitation. In the early days, results may seem subtle, but like drops of water wearing down stone, affirmations reshape the inner landscape. One day, fear around finances begins to fade, guilt over receiving dissolves, the compulsion to self-sabotage weakens. New ideas arise, ideas that create income, invite support, and welcome opportunity. The shift happens first in consciousness, then in form. Through daily use, affirmations build new mental pathways. The mind that once defaulted to fear now begins to rest in trust. The inner voice that once whispered, "You'll never have enough," is replaced with one that says, "You are worthy of all good things." With time, discipline, and faith, affirmations wash away the old programming and replace it with divine truth. Money flows where there is joy, circulation, and confidence. Money is not merely currency. It is energy in motion. It follows the path of least resistance and the pull of highest vibration. It does not cling to fear, hesitation, or stagnation. It flows like water toward openness, life, and movement. Where there is joy, money is drawn. Where there is circulation, money increases. Where there is confidence, money multiplies. These are spiritual laws, not human opinions. They govern the flow of wealth as surely as gravity governs the fall of a stone. Joy is a magnet for abundance. It is the soul's agreement with life. When you operate in joy, you vibrate in harmony with divine supply. Money responds to joy because joy is the signal that you are aligned with your true nature, free, creative, and receptive. Joyful people do not repel prosperity, they attract it effortlessly. Their spirit is open, their energy is generous, and their presence invites good. Joy opens doors that strategy alone cannot. It is not uncommon to see people who work tirelessly but attract little, while others seem to receive with ease. The difference is often vibrational, not logical. Those who infuse their actions with joy and gratitude create a current that money follows. It is not forced, it flows. Money, being spiritual substance in visible form, recognizes the environment of joy as familiar. It wants to dwell where there is appreciation, where it is celebrated, where it is treated not as a burden or a fear, but as a friend and servant of divine purpose. Circulation is another law that governs the movement of money. What is hoarded becomes stagnant. What is withheld out of fear eventually dries up. But what is freely given, wisely invested, joyfully spent, and lovingly shared grows in both power and quantity. Money is like blood in the body. It must move. When it circulates, it sustains life. When it is blocked, it creates imbalance. To release money with peace is to keep the divine flow moving. Many believe that saving is security, and while wise stewardship is important, fear-based saving leads to energetic constriction. There must be a rhythm, receiving and releasing, inflow and outflow. When money is circulated with gratitude and purpose, it becomes an instrument of expansion. The one who gives with joy will never lack. The one who sows generously reaps generously, not always from the same source, but always in right timing and right measure. Confidence is the final key. Money does not linger where there is doubt, self-condemnation, or insecurity. Confidence is faith in motion. It is not arrogance, but trust in the unseen supply. When you stand boldly and declare, "I am provided for, I am worthy of wealth, and money flows to me in expected and unexpected ways," you create a spiritual container that wealth can fill. Confidence sends a signal to the subconscious and the universe that you are ready to receive and equipped to manage increase. The soul that walks in confidence is never begging, never pleading. It knows that provision is its divine inheritance. It does not chase money, for it knows that what is rightfully yours by divine law will find its way to you. Confidence does not shrink in the face of bills, downturns, or delays. It remains still and unshaken, rooted in truth rather than appearances. This unwavering trust becomes a beacon, drawing in resources, opportunities, allies, and ideas. Where joy, circulation, and confidence meet, wealth is inevitable. This triad forms the atmosphere in which money feels safe to arrive and free to grow. It is not hustle that multiplies money, it is harmony. When the heart is light, the hand is open, and the mind is certain, divine substance begins to respond. The flow increases, not through striving, but through alignment with spiritual principle. The joyful soul, the generous giver, and the confident receiver are all vessels through which prosperity pours. There is a vast difference between being a source and being a channel. The source is the origin, the beginning, the inexhaustible reservoir of all good. The channel is the pathway, the vessel, the conduit through which that good flows. Confusion between the two brings anxiety, pressure, and self-imposed burden. Clarity restores peace and power. You are not the source of your supply. You are the channel, chosen, open, and equipped to receive and distribute divine provision. The infinite is the true provider. Spirit is the source of all wealth, all creativity, all ideas, all opportunity, and all sustenance. It is not a person, a paycheck, a job, a business, or a marketplace. These are channels, temporary forms that the source uses to deliver what is already yours by divine right. When one channel dries up, the source has 1,000 more. When one door closes, the source opens others, often in unexpected and miraculous ways. To believe that you by yourself are the origin of supply is to place an unbearable weight upon your shoulders. It creates strain, panic, and fear of failure. It leads to overwork, desperation, and spiritual exhaustion. The human ego wants to be the source because it craves control. But the soul knows the truth. All that is good comes from something higher, wiser, and boundless in its giving. You are the vessel through which that good expresses itself. The moment you recognize yourself as a channel, everything begins to shift. You release the need to figure everything out. You let go of the fear that if you do not force, strive, or manipulate, nothing will happen. You begin to trust that what you need already exists and that it will find you when you are aligned. The pressure to make things happen softens into the peace of allowing, receiving, and acting from guidance, not fear. Being a channel does not mean being passive. It means being receptive. It means tuning your thoughts, your beliefs, and your speech to the frequency of divine abundance. It means affirming daily, I am open and ready to receive from unlimited sources. It means showing up in the world with the expectation that supply will flow to you through known and unknown channels. It means releasing the grip of control and choosing the path of trust. The river does not worry about where the water will come from. It simply flows. It makes room for the water and allows it to pass through. Likewise, when you recognize yourself as a channel, you stop resisting. You stop blocking the current with doubt, with fear, with stories of not enoughness. You begin to clear the path, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that the divine supply may pour through you freely. To be a channel is to be in partnership with the infinite. You receive not for hoarding, but for circulation. You receive not because you are entitled, but because you are ready to steward what is already present in the spiritual realm. You become a point of expression through which divine abundance moves to bless not only your life, but the lives of others. You become a gateway through which provision takes form, through your hands, your words, your work, your giving, and your receiving. The channel is never afraid of running dry, for it knows its source is eternal. When the world around you appears uncertain, the truth remains unchanged. The supply is constant, and you are simply its instrument. You do not need to create wealth. You need only to align with it. You do not need to manufacture opportunity. You need only to be open to it. You do not need to be the origin. You need only to say yes to the flow. Every transaction is a sacred exchange when spoken with right words. Every moment involving money, goods, or services is more than a simple exchange. It is a spiritual interaction, a movement of energy from one vessel to another. Transactions are not just economic events. They are opportunities to align with divine law, to affirm abundance, and to sanctify the flow of supply. When money moves through your hands, whether receiving or giving, you stand at a crossroads of energy. What you speak in that moment shapes the vibration of what follows. The world teaches that transactions are cold, mechanical, and detached. A purchase is made, a bill is paid, a service is rendered, and all is dismissed as routine. But to the spiritually awakened mind, there is no such thing as a mundane exchange. Every transaction carries the potential for spiritual elevation or energetic disruption. What transforms it from ordinary to sacred is the consciousness with which it is approached and the words that are spoken during it. Words are spiritual instruments. They bless or they bind, they affirm increase or announce lack. When you engage in any financial transaction and accompany it with words of truth, you elevate the entire experience. You align yourself with divine order. You remind both yourself and the universal supply that this movement of money is not a loss, but a circulation, one that is blessed, purposeful, and abundant in return. To speak the right words is not merely about politeness or positive thinking, it is about spiritual intention. When you pay a bill and say, "Thank you, divine supply, that this is paid in full and returns to me multiplied," you are not just speaking to the paper in your hand. You are sending out a vibration that charges the act with divine expectancy. You are declaring that every cent given is a seed, and every seed must produce a harvest. When you receive money, whether a salary, a tip, a gift, or even a refund, your words carry power. To say, "I receive this with gratitude and joy," this is divine substance flowing through rightful channels, is to open yourself further to greater good. Receiving is an art many have forgotten. They receive with guilt, shame, or discomfort, which clouds the transaction and delays future increase. But the soul who receives with thanksgiving makes room for more. Even the smallest exchanges can be turned into acts of prosperity. Buying groceries, filling your gas tank, tipping a service worker, purchasing a gift, all can be transformed into spiritual affirmations when the right words are used. Say, "As I spend, I send love into the world. What I give returns to me tenfold, with joy, in perfect timing." The transaction then becomes not just a movement of money, but a movement of blessing. In business dealings, the power of sacred speech is magnified. A business agreement sealed with integrity and positive declaration holds a higher vibration than one clouded with fear or greed. To say, "This exchange blesses all parties and reflects divine justice," is to bring harmony into the financial realm. The words set the tone. They shape expectations. They either open or restrict the flow of what comes next. Every transaction is a mirror of your inner beliefs about wealth, worth, and circulation. When accompanied by the right words, words of gratitude, faith, and divine alignment, they become channels of transformation. They carry within them not just material value but spiritual charge. The more consciously you speak during each financial interaction, the more attuned your life becomes to abundance. Words spoken in fear of lack seal the flow. Words spoken in trust open it wide. There is no neutral speech, only declarations that draw you closer to prosperity or further into resistance. Every transaction becomes a ritual of affirmation or a repetition of limitation depending on the words you speak. To speak rightly in those moments is to choose blessing, to choose expansion, to choose divine partnership in every act of giving and receiving. The law of prosperity responds to declaration, not desperation. There is a divine order that governs all things, including wealth. The law of prosperity is not swayed by emotion, urgency, or human panic. It does not respond to pleading, nor is it moved by fear. It is a law, unchanging, precise, and responsive only to alignment. It listens to the voice of confidence, not the cry of lack. It answers clearly to declaration, not desperation. Desperation is rooted in fear, in the belief that supply is running out, that time is short, and that one must beg or panic to survive. It sends out a vibration of scarcity, a signal that one is not connected to source. Though the feeling may be intense, it blocks rather than attracts. It closes the channels of supply because desperation is a denial of trust. When a soul pleads from a place of panic, "Please let something come, I have nothing left," the spiritual law hears only the energy of nothingness and mirrors it. Declaration, by contrast, is grounded in spiritual authority. It is the calm, steady voice of one who knows their rights under divine law. A declaration is not wishful thinking, it is a bold statement of truth in the face of appearances. It does not require proof. It is not born from the senses, but from the spirit. When one says, "All my needs are met now," even with an empty purse, the law of prosperity is activated. That word becomes a seed, and that seed begins to manifest its own harvest. Declarations are not commands to the universe out of arrogance, they are affirmations of divine partnership. When you declare abundance, you are not demanding, you are aligning. You are stating what is already true in the invisible and inviting it to appear in form. You are not hoping for favor, you are affirming the flow. This is the vibration that moves the law into action. This is the language the law understands. Desperation looks to the outside and declares that there is not enough. It sees the bank account, the overdue notice, the lack of clients, and it spirals downward into fear. It begins to affirm limitation unconsciously. "I'll never catch up. Nothing's working. I don't know what else to do." Though spoken in panic, these words are still declarations, and the law does not discriminate between conscious and unconscious affirmations. It simply reflects what it is given. Declaration requires discipline. It calls you to rise above appearances and speak from your highest knowing. It may feel unnatural at first to say, "I am richly provided for," when your physical eyes see otherwise. But the spiritual eyes see what is not yet seen. They look into the invisible realm, where supply is limitless and always present, waiting for recognition. To declare is to recognize. To recognize is to receive. The law of prosperity moves swiftly when the declaration is made with feeling, faith, and repetition. It is not enough to say it once. The declaration must become your daily song. It must rise from your lips in the morning, echo in your mind through the day, and be the final word you speak before sleep. The subconscious must be saturated with truth until it accepts the new belief as law. There is no need to beg the infinite. Divine supply does not withhold. It waits only for the vessel to be ready. Desperation closes the vessel. Declaration opens it. Desperation declares separation from source. Declaration affirms unity with it. The one who knows their oneness with abundance does not cry out in fear. They speak with assurance, and the law responds. Speak your word and speak it often, not with the trembling voice of panic, but with the steady tone of knowing. The law does not answer worry, it answers faith. It responds not to what you feel in fear, but to what you declare in truth. When your words match the vibration of wealth, that wealth must take form. The delay is never in the supply, it is only in the belief, and belief is strengthened through the word. Blessing money increases its spiritual charge. Money is not inert. It is not lifeless. It carries energy, an invisible current that flows according to the consciousness of the one who handles it. Money, in its essence, is a form of divine substance expressed in the material world. It is a symbol, not of greed or lack, but of circulation, freedom, and supply. When you bless money, you elevate its vibration, you infuse it with spiritual intention, you increase its charge, and in doing so, you multiply its power to bless, to grow, and to return. To bless something is to speak well of it, to acknowledge its divine origin, and to direct it toward a right and loving purpose. Blessing is a creative act. It is a declaration that what you hold in your hands is not separate from spirit, but one with it. When you bless your money, you are not just speaking over the bills or coins or numbers in an account. You are activating the spiritual essence behind it. You are calling forth its highest expression. Many people treat money with fear, guilt, or resentment. They curse it silently when it's not enough. They worry about it, criticize it, and cling to it tightly. This emotional energy distorts its flow. It lowers its charge. Money, like all energy, responds to the frequency with which it is handled. Fear diminishes its power, grief slows it down, resentment blocks its movement, but blessing lifts it, purifies it, and opens the channels for more to arrive. The act of blessing money does not require ritual, but it does require presence. When you receive money, whether through work, gifts, refunds, or even found coins, pause and say, I bless this money. I recognize it as divine substance. It flows to me from infinite source, and it returns to me multiplied. This simple statement shifts your relationship with money from one of passivity or fear into one of co-creation and reverence. Likewise, when you spend money, bless it as it leaves your hands. Say, I release this money in love. It blesses the one who receives it, and it returns to me with increase. This changes the nature of the transaction. It turns a routine act into a sacred one. You are no longer just paying a bill or making a purchase. You are circulating spiritual substance. You are sowing a seed into the field of divine supply, and what is sown with blessing must return with blessing. Blessed money carries a higher frequency. It carries your intention. It carries your faith. When someone receives money that has been blessed, they are receiving not only physical currency, but spiritual energy. That energy ripples forward, continuing the chain of good. Even money given anonymously or placed into the world without words can carry this charge when it has been handled with gratitude and reverence. To bless your money is to cleanse it of fear-based imprints. If it was received during a difficult time, bless it and transmute the energy. If it was earned through strain or anxiety, bless it and release the heaviness. If it feels like not enough, bless it as if it were more than enough, and watch how it begins to reflect that belief. The act of blessing reprograms your subconscious, signaling that money is not an enemy, but an ally, and that you are worthy of increase. Blessing also removes the shame or guilt many carry about wealth. There is no virtue in poverty when it is born of fear, and there is no sin in wealth when it is guided by spiritual law. When you bless money, you purify it from human judgments and return it to its true role, a servant of good, a tool for creation, a means through which divine ideas take form in the physical world. The more often you bless money, when you give it, receive it, count it, or even think of it, the more you reinforce your awareness that it is part of a greater system of divine order. You begin to see it not as something you must chase or control, but as something that flows to you, through you, and for you with grace and wisdom. Resentment or fear blocks, financial flow. The movement of money is not governed solely by outer conditions, markets, or economic trends. It is shaped by inner vibration. Prosperity, like all things, is first spiritual before it becomes material. It flows freely when the consciousness is clear, receptive, and aligned with truth. But when resentment or fear is present, the channels through which financial supply moves become clogged. These emotions, if unacknowledged, act as barriers, interrupting the natural rhythm of giving and receiving. Resentment is a heavy energy. It binds the soul to past wounds and perceived injustices. It says, I was wronged, or I did not receive what I deserved. Whether the resentment is directed at a person, an institution, a job, or even oneself, the result is the same. It creates resistance. It tightens the grip around the heart and the hand. It prevents circulation. When one resents the past, one unconsciously closes the door to new blessings. The law of prosperity responds to openness. It flows easily where there is gratitude, joy, and forgiveness. But where there is bitterness, it halts. This is not punishment. It is cause and effect. The universe cannot pour abundance into a vessel already filled with grievance. To release resentment is to make space. It is to clear the field so that new seeds may be planted. It is to acknowledge that no matter what occurred before, the present moment holds infinite possibility. Fear, like resentment, is a powerful blocker. Fear is a declaration of separation from source. It says, I am alone, there is not enough, or I do not know how I will survive. These thoughts, though often rooted in past experiences, become energetic instructions. They tell the subconscious to prepare for loss, for limitation, for struggle, and the subconscious, being creative, obliges. What is feared is attracted, what is dreaded is magnetized. Fear contracts. It pulls energy inward. It closes the doors to intuition, inspiration, and divine guidance. When one is afraid about money, afraid to spend, afraid to ask, afraid to receive, the very flow that would bring relief is blocked. The natural movement of prosperity is one of circulation. But fear holds on, hoards, hesitates. It distorts the spiritual truth that supply is infinite and ever-renewing. Even the fear of repeating old financial mistakes can freeze abundance. When someone says, "I've lost before, so I won't try again," they anchor themselves in that loss. The past is kept alive, and the future is shaped in its image. But when fear is released, when one says, "I trust in divine supply," even without knowing the how, the flow begins to return. The channels begin to clear. Speaking the word of truth is a powerful step. Affirmations such as, "I release all resentment and make space for abundance," or "I am fearless in the face of supply, for it is divine and unending," begin to rewire the subconscious. They do not deny the feelings, but they replace the dominant vibration with something higher. They plant seeds of expectancy instead of doubt. The flow of money is sensitive to the tone of the heart. When the heart is heavy, supply hesitates. When the heart is light, giving and receiving unfold naturally. Resentment and fear are not moral failings. They are emotional burdens that can be lifted. With intention, with prayer, with practice, the inner atmosphere can shift, and when it does, prosperity rushes in, not because it was ever absent, but because the way has been cleared. Tithing, giving, or paying with love, returns multiplied. In the realm of spiritual law, nothing given in love is ever lost. Every act of true giving, whether a tithe, a gift, or a payment, when infused with love and trust in divine supply, becomes a sacred transaction. It sets into motion a law far greater than human reasoning can comprehend. This is the law of circulation, the law of increase. When something is released joyfully, with faith that it blesses others and returns in multiplied form, it cannot help but do so. Tithing is not a mechanical duty or a religious obligation. It is a recognition of source. It is the conscious act of returning a portion of what one has received to the channel through which one is spiritually nourished. But the power of the tithe lies not in the percentage, it lies in the consciousness. When one tithes with love, gratitude, and reverence, the act becomes magnetic. It opens the heart, signals trust in the invisible supply, and places the giver in alignment with abundance. Giving in all its forms mirrors the nature of divine life. Life itself is generous. The sun gives light, the earth gives food, the breath gives renewal. When you give, you imitate the divine impulse, and you participate in the infinite exchange of good. But if the giving is reluctant, fearful, or resentful, its charge is diminished. The law still operates, but it returns in kind. That which is given in worry breeds more worry. That which is given in joy returns as joy. Money that is paid with love, whether for a meal, a bill, a service, or a gift, carries spiritual substance. It becomes more than currency. It becomes a blessing. The consciousness of the giver charges the transaction. A simple act, like paying a utility bill, can be transformed by a single thought. I bless this payment. It provides light, warmth, and comfort. It circulates and returns to me increased. In that moment, The payment is no longer a depletion, it is a seed. Every time money leaves your hands, it does not vanish. It goes forth, takes root in consciousness, and begins to grow. But it grows according to the energy with which it was sown. Give in frustration, and that frequency expands. Give in love, and that love multiplies. This is not superstition or blind hope. It is spiritual science. It is the way divine law expresses through material flow. Many fear giving because they believe it creates lack. They think, if I give this, I'll have less. But this is a misunderstanding of divine substance. True giving does not create lack. It affirms trust in infinite supply. When you give from a place of knowing that God, Spirit, or the infinite source is your true provider, the channel expands. You no longer rely on a single paycheck, person, or account. You tap into the well that never runs dry. Tithing and giving can be acts of radical faith. They say, I do not fear the flow of money, I trust it. I am not diminished by sharing, I am expanded by it. When this attitude becomes habit, increase becomes inevitable. The law cannot help but respond. Giving is planting, and what is planted with love must return with abundance, often from unexpected sources and in unexpected ways. There is also a joy that comes from knowing your giving blesses others. Whether you tithe to a spiritual teacher, support a cause, help a friend, or tip generously, the energy you send forth lifts others. And in lifting others, you lift yourself. The circulation of love through giving not only blesses the receiver, it elevates the soul of the giver. It affirms connection, it honors unity. It celebrates the truth that prosperity is not hoarded, it is shared, moved, multiplied, and returned through divine channels. The soul that gives with love is never impoverished. Every dollar released in trust becomes a declaration of wealth, an affirmation of sufficiency, and a seed of future increase. Speak as if the money already belongs to the infinite through you. The spoken word is a tool of creation. It is the brush that paints the unseen realm into form, the divine decree that molds invisible substance into visible supply. When you speak of money, speak not as a beggar petitioning a faraway power, but as an heir affirming your rightful inheritance. Speak as if the wealth is already yours, not through possession or ego, but through divine identity. It is not about claiming money as your own in isolation, but recognizing that all substance belongs to the infinite and flows through you as a channel. The infinite is the true source of all provision. Banks, jobs, clients, and investments are only outer channels, temporary vessels. But behind every channel is the ever-present fountain of divine substance. It is never depleted, never exhausted, and never limited by appearances. When you acknowledge this truth with your words, you call forward the supply that already exists in the unseen. You do not have to convince it to come. You align yourself with it through declaration. When you say, money flows freely to me because it belongs to the infinite and I am its trusted channel, you are not making a wish. You are affirming a spiritual fact. You are stepping into the consciousness of abundance and removing yourself from the illusion of separation. You are no longer the seeker. You become the steward. You do not try to get. You express what already is. You speak not from lack, but from truth. Many speak of money with hesitation, doubt, or apology. They say, I hope it comes, I wish I had enough, or I don't know how I'll make it. These words reinforce scarcity because they are spoken as if the infinite is absent. But when you speak as if the money already belongs to the infinite through you, your words become charged with faith, and that faith draws supply like a magnet. There is divine dignity in declaring your wealth, not in boasting or comparison, but in recognition of the spiritual law that governs provision. Say, I am a vessel of divine abundance. All that I require flows to me now. Speak it when the bank account is full, and speak it when the numbers appear low. The truth is not determined by appearances. It is revealed by your alignment. Speak not from what you see, but from what is eternally real. This is not denial. It is dominion. It is refusing to bow to the illusion of limitation. It is standing firm in the knowing that you are not the source, but the channel. And as long as you remain open, trusting, and receptive, the infinite can pour through you without restriction. Your speaking becomes the signal to the universe that you are ready to receive, ready to steward, and ready to circulate. Every time you speak of money, ask yourself, am I affirming fear or faith? Am I identifying with the infinite or with limitation? Choose words that lift you, words that honor the divine nature of supply. Say, I give thanks for the wealth that flows through me for good, or I am richly supported by the limitless source. Speak these words aloud. Speak them in stillness. Speak them until your subconscious accepts them as law. Speak boldly, not to impress, but to imprint. Speak daily, not to perform, but to plant. Speak faithfully, not to demand, but to align. The infinite knows your needs before you ask, but it is your word that prepares the soil for the harvest. When you speak as one who already walks in the wealth of the infinite, the law cannot help but reflect it in form. Words, when uttered with conviction, are more than mere sounds. They are spiritual commands. They are vessels that carry intention into the invisible realms of substance, forming the molds through which divine supply flows into material reality. But it is not the words alone that carry power. It is the spirit behind them, the faith that declares, the feeling that believes, and the inner knowing that what is spoken is already accomplished. Words without faith are empty shells. Words with faith and feeling are keys that unlock the storehouses of heaven. Every person speaks their world into being, whether consciously or not. The tongue wields creative power, but it draws not from logic or doubt. It draws from belief. When a person speaks from fear, they mold fear into form. When they speak from lack, they shape limitation. But when one speaks with faith, faith that what is spoken is grounded in divine truth, they set the law of abundance into motion. Faith turns speech into seed, and feeling waters it until manifestation comes. Faith is the unwavering assurance of things not yet seen. It is the spiritual sight that knows supply exists, even when appearances deny it. When one declares, I am abundantly provided for, it is not a wish, it is a spiritual fact stated with authority. The universe does not respond to begging, it does not respond to doubt, it responds to certainty, it responds to words that are spoken from the heart as if they could not possibly return void. Feeling is the magnetic field that wraps around the word and draws to it the substance of the unseen. Feeling is not just emotion, it is vibration. To speak with feeling is to speak from the center of your being, to declare with such conviction that every cell aligns with what is said. You may affirm wealth 100 times a day, but if you do so with indifference or disbelief, your words are like seeds scattered on stone. But speak once with deep feeling, with full embodiment of belief, and the heavens begin to shift. Many attempt to use affirmations as mental tricks, repeating phrases mechanically in hopes of changing their outer world. But the power lies not in repetition alone, it lies in the spiritual force behind the words. Faith charges the word with authority, feeling gives it form. Together they awaken the divine law that has been waiting to be activated. The floodgates of supply are never locked. They await the voice that speaks with confidence born of truth. When words are spoken in alignment with spiritual law, and when they are infused with the energy of belief and the richness of heartfelt feeling, they bypass resistance. They do not argue with appearances, they override them. They speak from the level of the absolute, not the temporary. When one says, "I am the channel of unlimited wealth," and says it with the certainty of one who knows their oneness with infinite source, there is no force that can block what follows. This is the divine science of words. They are not thrown into the air, they are planted into the subconscious, which then aligns outer conditions with the vibration that was spoken. Speak lack, and lack will take form. Speak provision, and doors will open. The universe always says yes to what you say with feeling. It reflects not your casual wishes, but your embodied truths. Speak as one who already walks in the fullness of supply. Let your voice carry the tone of assurance, not pleading. Let your words become declarations of what already is in divine mind. Do not wait for conditions to change. Speak until they must. Speak not to convince the universe, but to align yourself with it. The moment your words become filled with faith and animated by feeling, the current begins to shift. Supply begins to move. Channels begin to open. Opportunities begin to appear. Not because of effort or force, but because divine law has been summoned by word and fulfilled by vibration. You are not here to strive, to plead, or to suffer in limitation. You are here to remember the truth that the infinite works through you as the open channel of divine supply. Money is not your master nor your source. It is a sacred servant responding to your vibration, your word, and your inner certainty. When you handle it with reverence, when you speak over it with love, when you circulate it in joy and trust, it multiplies under spiritual law. Your spoken word is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. It instructs the subconscious, summons divine substance, and sets the law of prosperity into motion. Words backed by faith become declarations of creation. Words infused with gratitude unlock invisible doors. Fear and resentment may have delayed the flow, but they hold no real power in the face of your awakened knowing. You are not separate from the source. You are an extension of it. The more you speak, give, bless, and act as though wealth already belongs to the infinite through you, the more freely it flows. With every affirmation of truth, you rewrite the patterns etched into the depths of your being. With every act of giving, you expand the current. With every expression of gratitude, you lift yourself into alignment with the divine rhythm of increase. Supply does not come by desperation, but by declaration. It does not flow through fear, but through faith. Let every transaction be sacred. Let every word be filled with power. Let every moment with money be an opportunity to affirm, "I am the channel of divine abundance, and all that I require flows to me now, easily, richly, and without end."